Some may argue and say that the Ford Pinto was one of the best cars ever made by Ford, and many others may argue and say this is one of the worst cars ever built. But nevertheless, that the Pinto had left its mark in automotive history. No matter how you view it, good or bad, it's still a well sought after item.
So $30,000, Clinton.
Just about 10 years prior, Chevy suffered the same situation, but in a different way. And many of you guys told me it was a witch hunt, and I'm kind of siding with you guys about this. But I really wanted to hear how this whole thing got started and kind of make my own assessment on what really happened.
I lost friends on the highway in crashes. High school, college, couldn't believe it. It was like a bloodbath compared to today, your friends today. It's like 5 times more per capita, 5 times more per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. People were dying and injured on the highway. So I decided to do something about it. And I got a hold of technical information and realized that the auto companies were not putting proven, simple safety features we now take for granted in their cars that were available for decades. Seat belts, padded dash panels, head restraints, stronger side impact, collapsing steering column so it doesn't turn into a spear, and a left front collision, and airbags. GM got wind of this, and they hired a private detective to follow me everywhere. And the memo, after I sued them later, the memo that they instructed, the detective firm said to their allies, we got to get dirt on this guy in order to shut him up. First Amendment, right? Shut him up. It isn't just government that shuts people up. Corporations do a great job of it. Make a long story short, over 1 million lives saved, tens of millions of injuries prevented, affected car production all over the world because they had to sell into our market in the US and meet the standards. And you see, if you go all the way back, what was the spark? Not only did I have a lucky choice of parents, the spark was finding out why are my friends getting killed on the highway in low-speed crashes? Why did that car behave the way it did and became a spear or a fire trap when they could have built it better?
But this one man had an argument that was solid. That's the part that we really don't know. Was it a solid argument or was it just for him to sell books? So let's begin. The Chevy Corvair is a compact car manufactured by GM for the model years 1960 to 1969 in 2 generations. It is still the only American-designed mass-produced car with a rear-mounted air-cooled engine. The Corvair was manufactured and marketed in 4-door sedan, 2-door coupe, convertible, 4-door station wagon, passenger van, commercial van, and pickup truck body styles in the first generation 1960 to 1964, as well as a 2-door coupe convertible 4-door sedan in the second generation 1965 to 1969. Get to the gravy. The rear engine placement in the Corvair caused a weight imbalance that resulted in poor handling. As a performance vehicle, many people enjoy driving the Corvair. Combining with poor handling and high speeds, it can lead to an accident when the driver attempts to correct a steering error. If you just came from horse and buggy and you say, hey man, I just want to start driving a car, don't buy a goddamn Corvair. This ain't for you.
This is a 1962 Monza 4-door sedan that I purchased from Ralph Nader. I've got 15 Corvairs, I believe. We're supposed to be a group of rugged individuals. We have Corvairs because they're different. They're not Camaros, they're not Impalas, they're not Corvettes. But I want to be unique in a unique group of people. Trying to get the story out that this is still a viable vehicle. It's a hobby, we enjoy it. I haven't been killed yet. I don't have any grass stains on the roof of my Corvairs. It's not as unsafe, perhaps, as the book made it look. He presented the work in a fashion that sold books and got people's attention. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
To further add on to this, I went to the junkyard to pick up my 351 Windsor for one of my projects, and I asked the guy of 50 years of the junkyard, been there for a long time. I said, you remember the Corvair? He said, yeah, I remember that car. It's a horrible car. I said, what do you mean? Did it flip over or anything? He said, no, I didn't see him come in flipped over. He said, I seen him normal crashes and everything like that. The braking was horrible, I heard. And he said the engine was just a leaky engine and the fumes used to come inside of the car. That's what people were complaining about. But the main reason why they came in, he said, is that the engine used to bottom out. He said the springs, he said it just, the suspension in the back wasn't just quite right. It used to just bottom out, oil pan hits the ground, and it starts to leak, and then the engine is done, boom, finito. He said majority of the cars came in for engine failure because of that. Other than that, the car was, it was all right, but it could have perfected it and made it better. Elvis Presley had a lot of cars. Now, he even had a Corvair. See that white one in the corner? That's his, but I think he gave Priscilla one in 1963, but hers was red. With that said, the car was popular. If Priscilla has it, all the kids are going to ride and rock with it. That's just how that was going to go. Then sooner or later, Yenko Corvair came out. Based on the Corvair Corsa or a Monza and very popular with the SEC racing circles. The Yenko Stinger was available in 4 stages of tune with 160 horsepower, 190 horsepower, 220 horsepower, and 240 horsepower. Engines were built up to Corvair's 164 cubic inch flat 6. Now, have you noticed, like every crappy car, or what they call a crappy car, they go out racing with them, really put their hearts into the car and transform it into something that's just like miraculous. And I am enjoying watching these races like here. Those are nostalgic type of races with these odd looking cars, Pinto, Corvair, it's just amazing to see. So is the car really that bad? It really wasn't. On the flip side of this, did Nader have a point on the cars and their safety condition? He didn't just only tackle this type of issue, he went on and did some other issues along with it.
Nader credits civil lawsuits for stopping the sale of toys with parts that were choking hazards and banning asbestos, an insulation material once widely used in construction but found to cause cancer. Nader says too often criminal prosecutors shy away from charging corporate executives. In the recent General Motors ignition switch defect, linked to more than 100 deaths, federal prosecutors settled for a $900 million fine.
It seems to happen all the time, as if it's, to the corporations, a cost of doing business.
Well, it's not a cost of doing business when the corporation executives go to jail, but it's amazing how much penalty a company can take if it's big enough, like General Motors or Volkswagen, and ride it out.
In the 1980s and 90s, lawsuits revealed that tobacco companies knew about and hid the dangers of smoking. The companies agreed to pay out more than $200 billion in settlements.
It all started with these lawyers who often lost and lost in the courts until they started winning and divulging all the internal documents of Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds, which showed 2 things. One, that they knew from the get-go that tobacco smoke caused serious ailments like lung cancer, and 2, that they were deliberately marketing to young kids because they knew if they could hook them at 12 years age, they got them for life.
I'm gonna have to give this man a little bit more credit, man. He pounced on everything. I mean, kids' toys, asbestos, cigarettes, he did it all, man. So we have to give him some credit. Now, his hustle game started from the Corvair, no doubt about it. I mean, he pounced that thing into the ground. But as you can see in this video here, man, $900 million on an ignition switch, like settlements. I mean, why don't you spend that $900 million into the car? But I guess $900 million is a write-off versus putting $900 million into a car to make it better. I don't know. But you guys can leave a comment below, man, and kind of help me see this through. I think that the car was a good car. I just think that, just like the Pinto, they should have just went in and said, you know what, I'm going to make it better. Because obviously they're racing with the car. And if you can see in some of these cars here, like this Yenko, so that means that, that could have been implemented into the production car version. Then some years later, they did the Pontiac Fiero, but the Fiero GT really was the flavor of the month. And what happened? They got it right, and they got rid of it. Now they came out with a C8, which I think a Corvette should not be mid-engine. I think they should have made a Corvair or a Fiero. That's what I think. That's just me. But in the closing arguments, there was a Yenko version. So they should have used some of that suspension geometry and put it into the production model, and this thing would have been brilliant. But I think they just buckled under pressure, and they just let it fall by the wayside and let this one man determine its fate. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Build Something TV. Hope you guys were enlightened in some kind of way, and we're going to leave you with this SCCA racing with the Corvair, man. All right? See you guys on the flip side.
We've got that 19 car, the 41 in that order of Jeff Rapp and then Norman Laturupe in that 4th spot right now. The rest of the field all closely bunched together, and nose to tail here as they head around turn 6, and we'll be heading into Thunder Valley to come up and complete the first race lap, so we'll keep an eye on that. But it was Logan Dernichek ahead of the James Sharp car as they went by us here in the S's.
I told you that all the white cars are going to mess me up aboard this thing.
Can you tell me a little bit about the car? I mean, it's all by itself and for good reason.
The original car was a concept car designed by General Motors for the 1954 Motorama.
Okay.
Their car was pretty close to the identical color as this one. It showed first at New York City at the Waldorf Astoria.
Okay.
From there it went to Miami, Florida, and was on display. Then it was shown in San Francisco, and it was shown in Canada and in Chicago. Then after that, the car was destroyed.
Okay.
And the reason they destroyed it was because of slumping sales for the Corvette, and so they didn't want to invest a ton of money into a new production of a car and lose like they were losing on the Corvette at the time.
Okay, now tell me, how did you come about getting this car?
Well, a friend of mine and I were coming back from Carlisle, Pennsylvania at a Corvette event, and because I'm a Corvette guy.
Yeah.
And guy's talking, he says, if you could have any car in the world you want, what would you have? I said, if I could have it, I'd have the 54 Corvair Motorama car, but I can't because it's destroyed.
It doesn't exist.
Well, my friend actually builds, restores 53, 54, 55 Corvettes.
Okay.
He says, do you have the money to throw into it? And I said, well, yeah, I could, you know. He said, but if you want to, he said, right now, he said, I'm financially at the point where I can't do it. He said, but if you can afford to pay for it all, you and I will build it. When it's done, it's your car. I said, well, how much will I owe you for labor? No, this is friendship. You and I build it.
No way.
When we're done, it's your car.
What a friend.
God bless you, old school car guys. I'm so happy to have you guys around.